Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
Hi everyone, Sue here from 1A Auto, and today I'm going to show you how to replace the 4x4 vacuum hub assembly on a 2011 F-150. So if you need that part or any other part for your car, click on the link below and head on over to 1aauto.com. To remove the tire, you need a 21mm socket, and you're going to break the lug nuts free with the pressure of the vehicle on the tire. Now I'm going to raise and support the vehicle with a 2-post lift. You can use a jack and jack stands at home. Now that the vehicle's up, I can take the lug nuts off to remove the tire. And be prepared, this thing is heavy. When you have a tire that's stuck on the hub, all the lug nuts are off. Obviously you can't pull it off. Always put a lug nut, just hand thread it a little bit, so when it does break free, it doesn't bounce back at you. The 13mm socket loosens up the outer caliper mounting bolts. Now this would be the caliper bolts to the bracket. The reason I say that is because if you were to look up torque specs, that's how they would list it, caliper to caliper bracket. And just put those aside. Now I can take the outer pad out. Let's get ready to dismount the caliper bracket. So it is a 21mm socket on the caliper bracket to knuckle bolt. There we go. Once you've got them broken free, you just back them all the way out and put the caliper bracket aside. Now we can take the rotor off of the hub. To remove this splash guard shield with the body clips, I just use a pair of needle nose pliers, or you can use your body plier clip tool. Oh, there you go. I go all the way around. There's 4 clips. For some reason, they make them very long. They just don't want that to come out. Now I'm going to reach up and grab the ABS connector and disconnect it from the fender well. So this has a red lock tab on it. You just pull up on that tab, and then you could push down on the black part of the tab and push that out, pull it out there. Now we're going to work our way down with all the connectors. We can disconnect it from the actual brackets. The new wheel bearing will come with new plastic clips, so you don't need to save them. Disconnect it from the flex hose. And now we're going to get an 8mm socket, and we'll disconnect it from the knuckle. And put your 8mm socket on there and take that bracket right off the knuckle. I like to put the bolt right back where I got it. It won't be in the way and I won't lose it. I'm going to disconnect the vacuum line to the four-wheel drive vacuum hub. I don't want to damage it, I just want to pry in there. I'll pry it up. This time it's good to examine, make sure that there's no tears. It's not swollen from oil. Looks like it's in good shape. Now I'm going to break free the mounting bolts for the vacuum hub. It's an 8mm socket. A lot of rust and dirt. I'm going to set these aside. You work your way around the hub. There's 3 mounting bolts. The mounting bolts are in a triangle pattern, so 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top. Once you break those free, we'll take the spindle nut off. To take this little dust boot cover off, just use a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver. See if you can get it in there. You might need a flathead screwdriver. You just pry that cover off. This is a 13mm socket. It's not really torqued heavily. It's only 30 foot-pounds, but I think it's just the fact that it's on a spinning wheel. Here we go. Use a pry bar. I'm going to take this completely off. Now we have to break the upper control arm nut free from the ball joint. It's a 21mm socket. Okay, I'm going to get on this side. I'm going to take this nut completely off the ball joint spindle. So the ball joint came out of the knuckle, so I have to put pressure on that actual tapered ball joint spindle so I can try to get this nut off. And it's whatever I'm trying is not working. So the factory ball joint comes with a hex tip, which is awesome. So I put my 21mm wrench on there to hold it, and I'm going to see if I can loosen this up. Make sure that socket, this is a 10mm socket, I want to make sure it's sitting up there as best as I can get it. I don't want it to strip. There we go. Now we'll use the leverage of the spring on that wrench. Let's see what happens. Take this ratchet off, take this socket off. There it is. That was a lot of work. Don't forget to disconnect the flex hose to the knuckle. Just got to get that out of the way so you can have enough play and throw in the knuckle. I'm gonna like to put the bolt back in. So I ended up putting the upper control arm nut back on just by hand so that I can stop the knuckle from spinning around while I loosen up the hub bolts. So with an 18mm socket, I'm gonna break free all 4 hub bolts. And take them out. So now I can remove the wheel hub bolts. I loosened them, took them all out. Now you're going to take a big hammer and tap on that. So you want to just hit the hub, try to break it free from the knuckle. There you go. Now with the hub off, I can take the upper ball joint nut back off the spindle. Yeah, maybe. There we go. For some reason this nut likes to go on but not off. Okay, now with the freeness of that, we can lift the axle up and you can pull off the vacuum hub. That's the 4-wheel drive vacuum hub. So now I'm going to clean all the grease off of the axle before I install the new vacuum hub. I'm going to take some brake / parts cleaner to it, make sure I get it all. I want that seal to sit good, the vacuum seal. I want it to really attach itself to that axle. I'm going to keep spraying this down until it's cleaned to the area the way I want it. Here we have the new 4-wheel drive vacuum locking hub. This one's from 1A Auto for our 2011 Ford F-150, and here's the factory one we took off. They're identical in made exactly the same way. They have the 2 vacuum hose fittings on the top and the spring loaded actuator. So if you need this part or any other part for your car, click on the link below and head on over to 1aauto.com. So now I'm going to place the new hub facing the proper way on the actual CV shaft. Just going to snap it on there. And I'm going to take the axle and I'm going to place it inside the knuckle. Now I can take the hub and the bolts. I'm going to put a little thread lock on each bolt before I mount it. When installing the hub, make sure the ABS cable is straight up and down. At least on this vehicle, it's the way it was designed. So if you do multiple style vehicles, Just pay attention to that. And then hand start all 4 bolts. $18mm. I'm just going to take a ratchet wrench to bottom all these hub bolts out, because we're going to have to torque this to 129 foot-pounds. So I'm going to get everything in place. So I put the upper ball joint nut back in the knuckle so that I can have this sitting up the way it's supposed to set up. I'm going to line up the mounting holes for this vacuum port, and I'm just going to put the 3 bolts in, starting by hand, work my way around, the other 2 on this side. It's set up like a triangle, 1 on the top, 2 set up like at 7 and 5 o'clock. And that is 8mm socket. I'm just going to snug these up till they hit the base. And the torque on these is 106 inch-pounds. I'm going to go to the other side, make sure they're all flattened out up against the hub. So now I'm going to torque the bolts down to 106 inch-pounds. So make sure you get all of them, 106 inch-pounds. Now you can reattach your vacuum line. Make sure it doesn't get pinched and it goes on nice and smooth. Yeah, it won't come off in the rain or going down the road. So you're going to torque the 4 mounting bolts to the wheel bearing hub through the knuckle, 129 foot-pounds. It's an 18mm socket. And I'm going to go in a crisscross pattern, so I'm going to go to the other side. I'm just going to double check. I'll check the other side real quick. So we're going to cut this little tie off and unravel the ABS wiring harness. Now take note that it's going to go behind the dust shield. So I'm going to route that like that. Just push it up there with your finger. It's got the clearance. And there's the mounting bolt for that. So I can take that off. Stop that by hand. So now I can bolt the ABS harness to the knuckle up in the top arm here. I'm going to run it. Make sure all the little plastic body clips go in. Run it through this brake line, up and over. And the hole is right back there. Let's see if you can see it. And now we can connect it to the connector. Line up the tabs, squeeze it, push down that red lock tab. Now if yours came off like mine did, it's really not that hard to put on. I'll show you real quick. So you can take that white tab out of the fender well. And they have a entryway to them, and one side has a lock on it. On this end, see how you have a tab here and a tab there? Let it go and snap in. And then you can line it up inside your fender well with those two dimples and lock it in. Now I'm going to install the spindle nut on the outside here. Manufacturer strongly recommends you replace this. So we don't, for camera purposes, we're just going to install the old one, and we've ordered the nut, and we'll put it on some other time. But I want to put this back together for you guys. So if you know you're going to do a hub or a front end repair where that spindle's coming out, preset yourself up and go to the dealer and order that, or hopefully they have it in stock. There's a neoprene plastic inside that melts, so they want you to have a new plastic on there. Now that's a 13mm socket, and as you can see, it's not really that big. So the torque is only 30 foot-pounds. So I set it for 30 foot-pounds. I'm going to put a pry bar in here and we're done. So now we can install the dust cap. And just give it a slight tap. That's it. So now we're going to place the ball joint down in the spindle. Put the new lock nut on. Okay, we're going to torque that to 85 foot-pounds. Okay, I'm going to torque this to 85 foot-pounds. Okay. Place the rotor on the hub. And what I like to do when I have truck rotors or heavy rotors like this, I'm just going to put 2 or 1 lug nut on. Once it bottoms on the hub, makes the assembly of the brake pads a lot easier. Yeah, I just need 1. Now these are the mounting bolts for the caliper bracket to the knuckle. You can see how the factory puts in thread locker. I'm going to clean this up with a wire wheel brush. You can use a wire brush at home. And then we're going to reapply a thin coat of thread locker and torque these down. I'm just going to add a little thin coat of blue strength, red or blue. It is being torqued down to 184 foot-pounds. So I line the bracket up, put the top bolt in by hand. I'll put the bottom bracket bolt in. So the caliper bracket to knuckle is 184 foot-pounds. I've got a 21mm socket. Put the front pad in. So you put it, I like to put them down on the bottom one first, so that way I can push and snap it in at the same time. And I could take my lug nut off and get ready to install the caliper. Okay, the double piston caliper should slide right on. Okay, then we have the 2 mounting screws. These are 13mm socket. And the torque specs is 27 foot-pounds. Now we can install the front flex hose bracket back to the knuckle. Once we tighten that out, we can put our ABS sensor in the bracket. 10mm socket. And I'm just going to bottom this bolt right down. Now I can put my ABS sensor in that little clip. There we go. $13mm socket and 27 foot-pounds for the caliper to bracket bolts. I'm going to put the fender skirt, a little rubber adapter, or whatever you want to call it, back in. There we go. Okay, now we can put the lug nuts on. Now we're just gonna bottom out all the lug nuts right to the hub, lower the vehicle, and we'll torque these down to manufacturer's specs, 150 foot-pounds in the star pattern. Okay, now the vehicle has pressure on the tire. I didn't lower it all the way, enough so that there's pressure on the tire, and I could torque my lug nuts 150 foot-pounds. One more time for safe measure.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.